Donald Trump's story began long before the bright lights of presidential campaigns and crowded rallies. In the bustling borough of Queens, New York, a young boy grew up watching a nation that rewarded confidence, risk, and determination. America was a country that celebrated dreamers, and Trump believed he could dream bigger than most. As the decades passed, he built a reputation in the world of real estate. Towering buildings carrying his name rose into city skylines. He became a celebrity businessman, a figure recognized far beyond boardrooms. To supporters, he embodied the American spirit of winning. To critics, he represented the excesses of wealth and fame. Yet one thing was undeniable: people paid attention whenever Donald Trump spoke. For years, he watched politics from the sidelines. He criticized leaders from both parties and argued that America was losing its competitive edge. Factories were closing, jobs were moving overseas, and many Americans felt forgotten by Washington. While political insiders debated policies, frustration was quietly growing across the country. Then came 2015. In a moment that stunned political observers, Trump descended a golden escalator in New York and announced his campaign for President of the United States. The reaction was immediate. Many experts dismissed him. Commentators predicted his campaign would quickly collapse. Rival politicians laughed. Pollsters doubted. The establishment shrugged. But something unexpected happened. Millions of Americans listened. Trump spoke in a way few modern politicians dared. He ignored traditional political language and delivered blunt, direct messages. He promised stronger borders, better trade deals, and an America that would put its own interests first. Crowds grew larger. Rallies became national spectacles. Every speech generated headlines. Every controversy fueled more attention. As the Republican primary unfolded, experienced governors, senators, and party leaders lined up against him. One by one they fell. Trump shattered political expectations, defeating opponents many considered far more qualified. By the summer of 2016, the outsider had become the Republican nominee. The general election against Hillary Clinton was one of the most dramatic contests in American history. Most major predictions favored Clinton. Yet Trump's campaign focused relentlessly on key battleground states where voters felt ignored by traditional politics. He traveled constantly, speaking directly to working-class communities and promising change. Election night became a political earthquake. As results came in, state after state shifted unexpectedly. By dawn, Donald Trump had won the presidency. Supporters celebrated what they saw as a historic rebellion against the political establishment. Critics struggled to understand how nearly every prediction had been overturned. The Trump presidency was unlike any that came before it. Every day seemed to bring major headlines. Tax reforms, judicial appointments, trade disputes, immigration battles, diplomatic negotiations, and constant political confrontations dominated the news cycle. Supporters praised his willingness to challenge institutions they believed had failed ordinary Americans. Opponents argued that his style created division and instability. No matter where Americans stood, they could not look away. Then came 2020. The world was struck by a global pandemic. Economies slowed, uncertainty spread, and the presidential election unfolded under extraordinary circumstances. Trump faced former Vice President Joe Biden in a fiercely contested race. Millions voted. Tensions ran high. When the counting ended, Biden emerged victorious. For many political careers, that would have been the final chapter. But Trump was not a conventional political figure. Even after leaving office, he remained the most influential force within the Republican Party. His rallies continued drawing enormous crowds. His endorsements shaped elections. Supporters viewed him as the leader of a movement larger than any single campaign. Critics remained just as determined to oppose him. As America moved toward another election cycle, Trump once again stood at the center of national attention. The businessman who had once been dismissed as a political curiosity had transformed into one of the most consequential figures in modern American history. Love him or dislike him, agree with him or oppose him, Donald Trump changed the conversation around politics in the United States. He challenged assumptions, broke political norms, and reshaped one of the world's oldest democratic systems. And that is why his story continues to captivate America. Because at its heart, it is more than the story of one man. It is the story of ambition, controversy, victory, defeat, resilience, and the enduring belief that in America, even the most unlikely path can lead to the White House. Donald Trump was never supposed to become President of the United States. At least, that was what nearly everyone believed. Born into a family of real estate developers in New York, Trump grew up surrounded by construction projects, negotiations, and big ambitions. From a young age, he learned that America rewarded those willing to take risks. While others dreamed small, Trump dreamed in skyscrapers. By the 1980s, his name was everywhere. Giant towers carried the Trump brand. Newspapers followed his every move. Television cameras chased him through Manhattan. He became a symbol of wealth, success, and larger-than-life confidence. Some admired him. Others criticized him. But everyone knew who he was. Years later, his fame expanded beyond business. When The Apprentice became a hit television show, millions of Americans watched Trump sit in a boardroom and deliver his famous verdict. "You're fired." The phrase became part of American culture. But while Trump entertained audiences on television, something else was happening across the country. Many Americans were growing frustrated. Factory towns were shrinking. Manufacturing jobs were disappearing. Communities that once felt prosperous believed they had been left behind. Politicians in Washington promised solutions, yet many voters felt ignored. Trump noticed. For years he criticized trade deals, government policies, and political leaders from both parties. Most people treated his comments as celebrity opinions. Few imagined he would act on them. Then came June 16, 2015. Inside Trump Tower, surrounded by cameras and supporters, Donald Trump stepped onto an escalator and descended into political history. He announced his campaign for president. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Political analysts laughed. News outlets predicted failure. Opponents called his campaign a publicity stunt. Some estimated he would drop out within months. Trump ignored them. Instead of speaking like a traditional politician, he spoke directly to voters. He talked about jobs, borders, trade, and national pride. His speeches were blunt, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Crowds started growing. Then they exploded. Thousands became tens of thousands. Rallies looked more like major sporting events than political gatherings. Meanwhile, Trump's rivals struggled to understand what was happening. Experienced senators, governors, and party leaders entered the Republican primary expecting easy victories. Yet one after another they found themselves overwhelmed by a candidate who broke every political rule. Televised debates became battlegrounds. Trump attacked relentlessly. His opponents responded. Viewership shattered records. Millions tuned in to watch. By the time the Republican convention arrived, the impossible had already happened. Donald Trump was the Republican nominee for President of the United States. But an even bigger challenge awaited. Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, former Secretary of State, one of the most experienced candidates in modern American history. Most experts believed Clinton would win. Many newspapers openly predicted it. Statistical models gave Trump little chance. Yet as election day approached, something felt different. In small towns and industrial cities, voters packed Trump rallies. People who had rarely participated in politics suddenly became energized. A movement was forming beneath the surface. And then came election night. As the evening began, expectations favored Clinton. But hour after hour, surprising results appeared. Key states became battlegrounds. Political commentators grew nervous. Maps started changing color. The atmosphere shifted. Then suddenly, America realized what was happening. Donald Trump was winning. By the early hours of the morning, the businessman from New York had defeated one of the most powerful political machines in modern history. The world watched in shock. Supporters celebrated. Critics searched for answers. History had taken an unexpected turn. On January 20, 2017, Donald Trump placed his hand on a Bible and took the oath of office. He was now President of the United States. And the most dramatic chapter of his story was only beginning.